The first thing everyone noticed was the silence. Not the ordinary office silence filled with keyboards and distant printers, but a sudden, heavy stillness that seemed to swallow the entire floor. The CEO had stopped walking mid-step, her eyes fixed on something so small and ordinary that no one else had ever paid attention to it before. A scratched, dented metal toolbox sat beside the janitor's cart, and stamped on its side, faded but unmistakable, was the company's original logo, a logo that officially no longer existed. Her question cut through the air like a blade, sharp with disbelief, and in that moment, the life of a quiet single dad who had spent years trying to remain invisible was about to be exposed in ways no one could have imagined. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us not to judge people by their job titles, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that truly need them. The man stood frozen, his hands rough and cracked from years of chemical cleaners gripping the handle of his mop. He was known around the building as the quiet one, the janitor who worked late shifts so he could be home in time to make breakfast for his daughter before school. Most people barely noticed him, and those who did often looked through him as if he were part of the furniture. He wore the same faded jacket every winter, patched at the elbows, and his shoes were always a little too worn. He never complained, never asked for favors, and never explained why his eyes carried a kind of tired wisdom that didn't match his position. Every morning before dawn, he dropped his daughter off at her aunt's small apartment, kissed her forehead, and promised he would be back before bedtime. He scrubbed floors that shone with wealth he would never touch, emptied trash from offices where people complained about bonuses being too small, and listened silently as executives argued about numbers that meant nothing compared to the cost of his daughter's asthma medication. His life was measured not in promotions or praise, but in overtime hours and the hope that someday things might get easier. The toolbox had always been with him. It was old, heavier than most, and clearly not something issued by the company. Other janitors joked about it, saying he carried more tools than the maintenance department, but no one ever asked where it came from. Inside were carefully organized instruments, some custom-made, others clearly expensive and well-used, all cleaned with the same care he showed everything else he touched. That toolbox was the one thing he guarded closely, the one piece of his past he hadn't been able to let go of, even when life forced him to give up almost everything else. The CEO, a woman known for her sharp mind and intimidating presence, had risen from an intern to the top in record time. She prided herself on knowing every detail of her company's history. The logo on that toolbox was not just old, it was the original design from the company's earliest days, used only during a short period before a major rebranding. Very few physical items with that logo still existed, and those that did were locked away in archives or private collections. Seeing it here, battered and stained, beside a janitor's cart, felt impossible. As word spread across the floor, employees gathered, curiosity replacing their usual indifference. The single dad felt every pair of eyes on him, the weight of judgment pressing down on his shoulders. Memories he had buried deep began to surface. He remembered the long nights years ago, working in a cramped garage filled with blueprints and half-finished prototypes. He remembered the excitement, the fear, the belief that hard work and talent would be enough to secure a future for his family. He remembered the day everything fell apart. Back then, he wasn't a janitor. He was an engineer, one of the original minds behind the company's first breakthrough product. He had worked alongside the founders, sleeping on office couches, pouring his soul into designs that would eventually make the company millions. The logo on the toolbox had been stamped there the day they celebrated their first major contract. That toolbox had traveled with him through every late night and early morning, a symbol of pride and possibility. Then life intervened in the cruelest way. His wife fell ill suddenly, and medical bills began to pile up faster than any paycheck could cover. He took fewer risks at work, asked for time off, and stopped staying late. When the company secured new investors, priorities shifted. The founders wanted people who could give everything to the business, no matter the cost. He was quietly pushed aside, his contributions minimized, his name eventually erased from official histories. When his wife passed away, the grief nearly destroyed him. With a young daughter to care for and no fight left in him, he took the first job he could find that offered stable hours and health insurance. Becoming a janitor in the very building he helped create was both humiliating and strangely comforting. He knew every corner, every vent, every hidden flaw in the structure because he had once helped design them. At night, as he polished floors, he sometimes fixed small issues no one else noticed, using his old tools, ensuring systems ran smoothly. He never told anyone. He didn't want recognition. He just wanted peace and a chance to raise his daughter without losing her too. The CEO listened as the story unfolded, each detail hitting harder than the last. Around her, executives shifted uncomfortably. Some recognized his name from old documents, footnotes they had never bothered to read. The realization settled in that the man they had ignored, sometimes mocked, was one of the reasons the company existed at all. What shocked everyone most was not just his past success but his present humility. Despite everything taken from him, he had chosen dignity over bitterness. He had cleaned the same floors that led to boardrooms where people took credit for ideas born from his sleepless nights. He had smiled politely when spoken down to, and he had never once demanded acknowledgement. The days that followed were filled with quiet change. The CEO ordered a full review of the company's early history, restoring names that had been forgotten. She ensured his contributions were formally recognized, not with empty applause but with tangible respect. He was offered a position that matched his skills, flexible enough to allow him to care for his daughter. When he hesitated, worried about stability, the company committed to supporting him fully, including healthcare and education benefits for his child. But the most powerful moment came not in a boardroom, but in a simple hallway. His daughter visited the office for the first time, holding his hand, eyes wide with wonder. Employees who had once walked past him without a glance now smiled, nodded, and greeted him by name. She looked up at him with pride, seeing not a janitor, but a man who had endured, who had survived, and who had quietly shaped something bigger than himself. Just before the ending, we want to ask you something important. Please comment below and share what this story made you feel, or tell us about a moment when kindness or recognition changed someone's life. Your words matter more than you know. Near the end of the day, as the building emptied, he picked up his toolbox once more. The logo was still scratched, still faded, but it no longer felt like a reminder of loss. It felt like proof that even when the world forgets you, your work, your integrity, and your love leave marks that cannot be erased. He walked out into the evening light, knowing his journey had come full circle, not with anger or revenge, but with quiet redemption. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you to look closer at the people around you and believe in second chances, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement keeps these stories alive and helps spread compassion where it's needed most.